Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for being part of the third quarter Forbes School of Business and Technology Colloquium of the 2020 Colloquia series, Compliance versus Self-Governance, the Ethics We Teach. I would like to welcome our presenter, Dr. Gloria Zúñiga y Postigo, Associate Professor in the PH Program of Organizations Development in the Forbes School of Business and Technology. Please keep your mics muted during the presentation. You may post questions in the chat and I will use them to facilitate an answer session with our presenter at the end of the webinar. Please complete the follow-up survey, which I will post in the live chat. The follow-up survey and recording of this presentation can also be found on the CETL YouTube channel and CETL website as well. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Gloria Zúñiga y Postigo.
Thank you for the introduction, Stephanie, and greetings to my colleagues at Forbes and the College of Arts and Sciences, to our extraordinary support staff, and not least of all to Peggy Sundstrom and Maya Segelic. They are my support system, so they're very important to me. I teach in the doctoral program of Organizational Development and Leadership, which is part of the Advanced Management Studies Department at Forbes. Although I am a philosopher by training, I followed an interdisciplinary academic path that includes business and economics and interests in Gestalt psychology and anthropology. Not surprisingly, I am interested in the nature of social phenomena, and I have developed a specialization in business ethics. Today, I'm going to talk about compliance versus self-governance, and I'm delighted to be a part of this 2020 Forbes Colloquium. Students often post in course introduction forums that they view a university degree as a means to get a better job and improve their lives. This is indeed one real outcome of their journey, but I often remind them that they get so much more than this, because at Ashford, we do not give degrees, we train minds. And this is an important distinction, because while a degree can be a key to opening doors, it is their ability to reason well and to navigate moral problems that will facilitate their staying employed, even in lean times or times of crisis. This is because the skill of good reasoning will make them better at what they do, and this will make them stand out from the rest. We provide students with many tools to cultivate their minds. Among these are logic and ethics. These tools are the bread and butter of philosophy, but they have been embraced in universities with liberal arts education more broadly because these tools have proven themselves to be practical and necessary. Logical reasoning and sound ethical decisions are what distinguish, for example, a good physician from a physician who's unable to diagnose properly or give patients the care that they deserve. Logical reasoning and sound ethical decisions also distinguish a good auto mechanic from a mechanic who cannot diagnose mechanical problems that he hasn't encountered before and has no qualms about charging a customer for multiple guesses of what could be wrong. With regard to business leaders, they're also good ones, as well as those who have made headlines with unsound decisions and they have levied heavy costs on society. In addition to the content expertise for their professions, then, business practitioners need a foundation in good reasoning, as well as ethical literacy in order to be able to navigate modern business challenges successfully. But these are not skills that can be learned by observation. Rather, they are intellectual skills that are founded on a theoretical basis. Now, there are two views on how to shape a good business leader. One of them is to view that one has the raw potential for good leadership, or a mentor to nurture the development of this quality. Another view is that we can not rely on someone in order to become a good leader or to learn the skills of a good leader from someone else, but to rely on one's own reasoning. Develop skills that will guide one's decisions and judgments when leading others. The first view leads to a path in which others decide what one ought to think and how one ought to act. So as social beings, this is an attractive alternative for sure. We want to belong. We want to receive the approval from others. We don't want to swim against the current. Rather, our biological makeup makes us emotionally compelled to play along, even if the social current has historically taken whole societies towards disastrous and even cruel directions. Not all societies are toxic or unwise or fearful of others who are not like them, of course, but following this path is little more than a gamble, one that has been determined mostly by luck. This is what I'm calling the path of compliance. The alternative is what I'm calling the path of self-governance. This view relieves us from being dependent on good role models or good societies or good luck. Rather, it empowers us with a theoretical framework that allows us to confront difficult decisions, not merely on the basis of the collective wisdom of our lived experiences, but more importantly, by facilitating our ability to address difficult decisions that we had previously never encountered. This is how a theoretical foundation in good reasoning and moral action can inform us in situations that take us by surprise. Let us consider the case of the Ford Pinto. During the last decades of the 20th century, Ford Motor Company began losing market share to compact and fuel-efficient Japanese cars. Lee Iacocca, who was Ford's president at the time, made the decision to develop and market a small car weighing less than 2,000 pounds and with a $2,000 price tag. This model was called the Pinto, and the completion plan from design to showroom was set at 2 years instead of the typical 4. Because of this short timeline, Pinto's styling required that the gas tank be placed behind the rear axle, which had protruding bolts. As such, any rear end collision of 20 miles an hour could cause the bolts to puncture the gas tank, spray gasoline inside the vehicle, and ignite a fire. Lee Iacocca decided against making changes to the design, and he had good reasons for this. First, the design met all of the legal and governmental standards in effect at the time. Second, according to a cost-benefit analysis performed, any modifications would increase the cost of the car, which would make the car inaccessible to the target demographic that could afford only $2,000 for a car. So the combination of compliance, competitive ingenuity, and genuine good intentions for consumers sounds like the best that capitalism has to offer. However, compliance, even with the best of intentions, is frequently not enough. Although Detroit's comeback kid, as he was known, he was also known for embracing facts and logic in his decisions, but he did not take his moral reasoning beyond compliance. He, unfortunately, because of that, the cost of this omission were lives that were lost. So what is beyond compliance? There's a story in book 2 of Plato's Republic about a shepherd in the service of the king of Lydia who found a ring in a cave while tending to his flock. He discovered that while he turned the ring a quarter of a turn around his finger, he would become invisible. The shepherd used the power of his invisibility to seduce the queen, and then he convinced her to become an accomplice in killing the king, after which he settled himself as the new king. The moral of this story is very powerful, so much so that it has been incorporated in the writings of Cicero, Rousseau, H.G. Wells, Tolkien. What would you do if you had in your possession the ring of Gyges? What would you do if you were invisible? Socrates argues that Gyges abused the power of the ring, and in doing this, he enslaved himself to his appetites. And it's very easy to be lured by pleasures that long to be fulfilled, whether it's money, power, control, or any other pleasure. The challenge is not to. And this requires good reasoning and a moral framework that is not subject to our desires or our emotions or opinion, that is not dependent on a good upbringing or a particular religious belief. The person who chooses not to take advantage or abuse of any power at his disposal is a person who thinks well. And this is essential in a good leader. The key in all sound moral agency is good reasoning. Ever since Hobbes, however, The common wisdom seems to be that human beings lack the capacity to regulate themselves. For Hobbes, man is more individualistic than social. Accordingly, the premise that an external authority must regulate human behavior has pervaded strategies for governing human behavior, including in business. This approach is already part of our modern business vocabulary, and it's called compliance management. And it perpetuates the Hobbesian view that enforcing norms requires the strong hand of a regulator who issues rules and provides incentives to comply by closely monitoring behavior and punishing transgressors. The problem is that compliance management can be coercive, and it fails to recognize that while we seek to be free in order to discover our vocation and unique individuality, we also want to be in community and not alienated from others. But this doesn't mean that we will agree with others. Disagreement will exist in our diverse global communities, but also in our small and homogeneous societies. This is so because societies are constituted by individuals, each with unique ideas. Disagreement can be very productive, so it's something that we should expect, not silence. But we need to prepare students to engage in productive disagreement, and for this, they will need the tools of logic and ethics. In my experience, students do not realize until they are in an ethics course that not everybody has the same understanding of the right and wrong. They assume that because we're able to recognize certain things as morally wrong, for example, murder, theft, torture, that we also agree on every other moral judgment. But this is not the case. In fact, although we agree that certain things are morally wrong, we often do so for different reasons. And the same applies to our judgments for what is morally good. We will frequently find it difficult to articulate the reasons for our moral judgments because we have relied on an ostensive understanding of morality. But good reasoning and a theoretical moral framework offer us the means to articulate our moral views and why we hold them. Now, we teach ethical theories in our undergraduate courses and also to our doctoral students so that they can learn to work through difficult moral problems and recognize the importance of listening to the moral points of view of those with whom they disagree. This alone serves as the unifying mechanism for productivity and harmony in addressing social problems in business or elsewhere. One that doesn't have to depend on shared beliefs or cultures, but just on good reasoning and goodwill. Now, we teach 3 ethical theories primarily in these courses, each with its own understanding of what is the moral good. So for one, the moral good means pleasure. That's utilitarianism. For another, the moral good is virtue. And the focus of virtue ethics is on character development by creating good habits of the mind. The third view of the moral good is duty. And I want to reflect on this just a little longer than the others because this view is commonly confused with what we have been calling the path of compliance. According to this mistaken understanding, the moral good is achieved by following the law, following rules, complying with expectations of the professional roles that we have. But this misunderstanding is often found in internet sources posted by non-content experts. Unfortunately, our students read such information too, so they need the guide of their instructors to clarify that the meaning of duty in duty ethics is different from our understanding of duty in our ordinary language. In duty ethics, the moral good is only achieved by following 2 fundamental rules of action, the universal rule and the humanitarian rule. Now, I'm not going to develop these here. I only wanted to point out to the importance of the quality of instruction, in addition to a strong curriculum, in empowering students with the fundamentals that they need. The theoretical framework that these ethical views offer our students is the foundation for self-governance. What then is self-governance? Well, the path of compliance relies primarily on the rules and laws presented to us by authorities to guide our morally relevant behavior. The path of self-governance relies entirely on one's good reasoning for identifying right action independently of rules and laws. In other words, what do we do when we're not being watched? What do we do when we have power over others? There are many well-known business ethics scandals in which the ethical misconduct of business leaders has led to bankruptcy, unemployment, the loss of hard-earned pensions, and in some cases, severe blows to the world's markets and financial systems. So one way to avoid such situations is, of course, to call for greater legislation. This would be indeed an embrace of the Hobbesian view that individualism is a threat to harmonious societies, and as such, coercive action and control are required. But let us not forget that this control would be in the hands of other human beings too. But there's another way to view human nature, one that views human beings as having the potential for virtue and concern for others that stems from the power of reason that is also part of human nature. Human beings are known to display marvelous acts of heroism and kindness. We tend to attribute these to our affective responses or to our powers of empathy towards other sentient beings. Now, I spend a lot of time thinking about empathy, as this is one of my research interests. And arguments have been made in the literature that while empathy allows an immediate affective connection with another sentient being, it is also one that is grasped rationally too. Human beings are capable of assuming responsibility for their own lives and the communities that they live in. We see this all around us. And I keep seeing this motivation in the dissertations from our doctoral students. They want to help others, not just improve their lot in life. Human beings have the desire for self-improvement, and this quest to realize their full human potential makes them active, resourceful, creative. We see this in our students. This slide that you're seeing right here is in fact taken by one of our students who travels around the world, taking photos with our Ashford logo. Our students show us every day that they do not allow the obstacles that they have encountered in their lives to convince them that they cannot do better or that they should not aim higher. They're showing us every day that they can. In light of this, the self-governance paradigm is the one that makes the most sense, for it promotes the idea that the virtue of a community is best assured by its members who seek to learn to be better thinkers, consistent moral agents, and who practice these good habits of the mind when they're actively engaged in their communities. This path of self-governance is, in my observation, the ethics that we teach. I have another slide that for some reason didn't come up, and I apologize for that, but I wanted to, and I can post it in the chat if possible, because I wanted to let you know that I'm available to, in case you want to visit this site. I like to call it a virtual business ethics suite. It's a site in Canvas, which has been designed to be a collaborative community for Ashford faculty who are either teaching business ethics or have an interest in it. And at this business ethics suite, you may obtain course content, search for information about current business ethics courses, and participate in our faculty discussion forum. So I look forward to hearing from you, and I'm glad that you were here to let me speak to you for a few minutes.
If you have any questions, please post it in the chat. And you have a lot of people saying good presentation, and thank you for sharing and everything else.
Thank you.
We do have a question. What common mistakes do you typically see are made in teaching of ethics?
Well, this is, I have overseen the teaching of ethics for our 445 course. I participated in the organizational 8518 course. I see fewer mistakes in the approach that we have by the content experts that teach these courses than I've seen in other universities. And I'll tell you what that is, because it's something to watch out for. But I've seen in other universities that I have taught, the idea is that ethics is something that doesn't require theory, that you need to just try to bring your best, your goodwill in your decisions, to want to wish the best for other people, to be honest, and that's all you need. And then you apply the knowledge that you have in a particular area of expertise that you have as a business practitioner. The problem is that it just becomes very subjective if we leave it as that. I think that generally speaking, and especially if it were a small homogeneous society, that would work. It has worked. But in a diverse society that we live in, even if we don't go very far, even if we're stuck now because of the pandemic, we have access to it because of the technology that we have. So we need to use something other than things that are dependent on the knowledge that we have, the background that we have, the culture, the religion. It has to be some neutral territory in which you can show reasons why you point out this is the wrong way of action or the right way of acting. So this is, to me, the biggest mistake that I've seen in other universities is to assume that ethical theory is not very useful, or that it's too hard to invest the time in learning.
I do have another one. Maya, ethics is very closely connected to one's culture. Is ethics at its very core cross-cultural in nature? And if not, how much of a wiggle room do we have as we interpret behavior of others?
That's a great question. Yes, we bring our moral values, our values from the cultures that we were raised in. And if you are like me, you move from one country to another and make that your home. So you import your values, you adopt new values. What is ethics? How does that relate to this? Is that it serves as a neutral ground, because ethics essentially are the practical rules of action. So you can have different values, but if you think about what are the best functioning practical rules of action, then you can translate the views that you have and take the particular ethical framework that you prefer. Now, you're not going to have agreement among everyone about what is the best rule for any particular moral problem, but at least you will have a framework that says, based on my particular perspective and the values that I bring in, these are the reasons that support that. Now let me hear yours. And once you have that exchange, then we have a chance of reaching some kind of agreement. But if we don't have that, all we have are our moral values from our communities and cultures, and we just remain isolated in that way. But ethics makes it possible for us to bring the richness of our values and discuss it, because the discussion is no longer at the level of values and culture and religion. It's at the level of what makes the most sense, that satisfy the needs of everyone that is involved. And concessions and arrangements probably will need to be made, but at least you're not at the level of disputing in an emotional level.
Another question is, what advice do you have for AU faculty to appropriately incorporate an understanding of ethics in the teaching of business and leadership?
Thank you for asking that, and I really appreciate this question. I really think that, and this is why we created the Business Ethics Suite, is to be able to share the knowledge that we have gained. We teach 3 ethical theories. Now, we teach them, typically students have to learn in 1 week what in a regular class they would take 14 weeks to learn. So we have developed ways in which we can present that quickly and in a way that is practical so that they can apply to business cases right then, the following week. So I would extend my invitation to join us at the Business Ethics Suite and see what we have and take what we have learned and produced to share for everybody. Because I think that the more we share the things that work for us in teaching, the better we can teach our students.
I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to read a few things. Christopher Foster, I love your points. Your thinking reminds me of Kant's What is Enlightenment and David Foster Wallace's What is Water? Thinking and acting freely through education, reason, and intellectual autonomy.
Spoken like a true philosopher. Thank you, Chris.
And the other is the top from Irina. The topic you address is eternal and of a particular importance today when our society is facing so many problems. That's true. And I have another question. Will you share the link to the Business Ethics Suite?
Yes, if you could you post my email address, because I need to invite, that's the way it works. I need to invite you so that you can join. So if you just email me, I will send you the invitation and you're in.
Sure. That's it for the moment. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to post them. I will post your email address. I don't have anything at the moment. So let me type this in here.
Just the ashford.edu one.
Yeah. Just want to make sure I.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, I don't think we have any more questions. So thank you again for the presentation. And thank you everyone for attending this September colloquium. Stay healthy and safe. Enjoy the rest of your day. And again, this will be posted on the CETL website as well and CETL YouTube.
Thank you.
Thank you.